Let's rewind to a simpler time. Before streaming, before binge watching, before you could just hit skip intro and forget that theme songs ever existed. Back when the algorithm wasn't running your life, and the only thing that decided what you watched was whatever was on the TV when you got home from school. Because there was one sacred, untouchable, non-negotiable time slot: after school. And depending on what kind of kid you were, that hour, those magical 60 minutes after your backpack hit the floor, wasn't just cartoon time, it was a ritual. If you were the type to grab a juice box and dive onto the couch with reckless abandon, you probably tuned into Darkwing Duck saving the city in a cloud of purple smoke. Or maybe you were hopping through dimensions with Chip and Dale, or watching Goofy try and fail to keep his dad energy under control in Goof Troop. But if you were built different, you didn't want comedy, you wanted combat. You were clutching the remote like a weapon, waiting for that Toonami intro to drop.
Watch, Guan. I said watch! Don't turn away. Honor his bravery.
You knew what time it was. Time to watch Goku charge up for 3 episodes straight. Time to watch Gundams go to war. Time for fights, flashbacks, inner demons, and explosions. This was the golden age of Disney Afternoon versus Toonami. One gave you cartoon theme songs that slapped so hard, they've been stuck in your head for 30 years straight. The other gave you story arcs so intense, you still remember where you were when Trunks showed up and sliced Frieza in half. They weren't just 2 programming blocks, they were 2 completely different cultures, 2 philosophies, 2 childhoods. So today, we're diving into the nostalgia vault to uncover the question that has haunted millennial minds for decades. Who really ruled after-school TV? Check out the description below for links to your favorite cartoon DVDs mentioned in this video. And if we miss your favorite cartoon block, don't stay silent, drop it in the comments. Because this one's gonna get personal. This one's gonna get nostalgic. And this one might just start a war in the comment section. Let's go. It all started in 1990. A magical, unstoppable lineup of cartoons that played back-to-back every single weekday afternoon. And it had a name that still gives every 90s kid a jolt of nostalgia: the Disney Afternoon. Now listen, if you were a kid during that time, this wasn't just a cartoon block. It was a full-blown cultural event. You didn't stumble across it, you planned your day around it. The Disney Afternoon was everywhere. It had iconic characters that felt like your personal cartoon squad. Theme songs so catchy, they lived in your head rent-free for decades. And stories that somehow blended high-flying action, off-the-wall comedy, and just enough chaos to keep things exciting without your parents switching the channel. Let's break this down. The second you heard that legendary intro, "Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg," you knew the magic was about to begin.
Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes, it's a duck blur.
DuckTales was the show that kicked it all off. It had everything: lost treasure, ancient curses, evil sorcerers, and of course, Uncle Scrooge diving into a vault of gold coins like physics didn't exist. And then things got wild. Chip and Dale, who you might have vaguely remembered from classic Disney shorts, were running around solving crimes in Hawaiian shirts like rodent-sized detectives in a murder mystery for kids. Then came Tailspin, where Baloo from the Jungle Book somehow became a cargo pilot flying a seaplane through jungles full of shady businessmen and sky pirates. And right when you thought it couldn't get weirder, Darkwing Duck exploded onto the scene. A full-on superhero parody with slapstick humor, comic book-level villains, and some surprisingly deep moments. It started as a Batman spoof, and became a cult legend. But here's the real secret behind Disney Afternoon's power. Every show in that block had the same chaotic, colorful, clever energy, and they were all packed with heart. But Disney wasn't done. Oh no. They stacked the lineup with even more iconic series, like Gummy Bears, bouncing through medieval fantasy with magical juice that made them superheroes. Goof Troop gave us hilarious father-son adventures before a Goofy movie broke all our hearts. Aladdin, the animated series, picked up right where the movie left off and threw you into non-stop genie-fueled chaos. And just when you thought it was all silly voices and duck puns, Disney hit you with the ultimate curveball. Gargoyles. That's when everything changed. This wasn't a lighthearted slapstick cartoon. This was Shakespeare with wings. Suddenly you're dealing with destiny, betrayal, ancient curses, and time-traveling Scottish warriors. The animation was darker, the themes were heavier, and the emotional stakes were sky-high. It was so different, you almost couldn't believe it was part of the same lineup. But that tonal whiplash? We loved it. It made the Disney Afternoon feel even more legendary, like a roller coaster that could veer from slapstick hijinks to mythological epics without warning. For years, this block was untouchable. It was the king of after-school TV, the heavyweight champ, the blueprint for what made a cartoon lineup truly unforgettable, until something very different showed up. Something bolder, louder, more intense. Something that didn't just want your laughter, it wanted your soul. And that something was Toonami. Then came the rebellion, the shift, the shock to the system. It was 1997, and Cartoon Network was done playing nice. While Disney Afternoon was giving kids laughter, charm, and sing-along theme songs, Cartoon Network kicked in the door with a completely different idea. They looked at the warm, fuzzy comfort of afternoon duck cartoons and said, what if kids had emotional breakdowns after homework? And just like that, everything changed. Welcome to Toonami, a cartoon block that didn't just show you animation, it dared you to feel it.
What are you?
I am the hope of the universe. I am the answer to all living things that cry out for peace.
Toonami was hosted by Tom, a sleek, monotone robot drifting through the stars aboard a futuristic spaceship. But this wasn't just a host. It was an experience, a vibe. Tom's voice wasn't cartoonish or exaggerated. It was calm, serious, and oddly comforting. The way he spoke made you feel like what you were about to watch was important. The transitions were moody. The graphics looked like something out of a sci-fi hacker movie. And the music? Oh, the music was pure digital adrenaline. Before a single episode aired, Toonami already felt like you were entering a dojo made of circuits and neon, like you were about to train for something bigger. And then the shows hit. Not silly sitcoms or wacky adventures. No. These were serialized sagas. Toonami brought the heat with Dragon Ball Z, the undisputed granddaddy of after-school anime in the West. This wasn't your average Monster of the Week cartoon. This was an epic. Entire planets were destroyed. Heroes screamed for 5 episodes straight just to unlock new powers. People died, and they stayed dead. Sometimes. You weren't just watching Goku punch stuff, you were watching legends unfold. Then came Sailor Moon, And don't let the sparkly skirts fool you. This was magical girl power with teeth. Relationships, sacrifice, fate, it was all in there. Every character had depth. Every arc had consequences. And you never knew when someone might not make it to the end of the episode. Then there was Gundam Wing, a show that introduced an entire generation of kids to political intrigue, space warfare, teenage rebellion, and the idea that maybe, just maybe, the good guys weren't so good after all. You had giant robots and emotional trauma, the best of both worlds. But it didn't stop there. Outlaw Star? Space cowboys with ancient tech and bio-androids. Tenchi Muyo? Harem comedy meets space opera. Rurouni Kenshin? A samurai with a haunted past trying to atone for his sins in Meiji-era Japan. Yu Yu Hakusho? A delinquent kid dies saving a child and becomes a spirit detective, fighting demons in tournaments that made Mortal Kombat look like a warm-up.
Monster! Spit out!
Ha! And that's a knockout.
These weren't just cartoons. They were sagas with rules, lore, internal logic, and devastating cliffhangers. Even the weird ones, like Reboot, felt different on Toonami. A CGI show set inside a computer filled with corrupted files, viral villains, and metaphysical consequences. It was wild, it was dense, and somehow you understood it, or at least you felt like you were supposed to. Reboot wasn't a ha-ha cartoon, it was a digital mythology. But here's what made Toonami so different from everything that came before it. It respected you. It didn't pander. It didn't talk down. It assumed you could handle complex themes. It trusted you to follow character stories, remember episode continuity, and deal with the emotional fallout when your favorite character didn't make it. It gave you action, sure, but it also gave you reflection. Where Disney Afternoon hit you with bright colors and snappy dialogue, Toonami hit you with monologues about justice, destiny, and inner demons. It introduced you to long story arcs, the kind that took weeks or even months to pay off. You didn't just tune in casually, you were committed. There were cliffhangers that left your mouth open in disbelief. There were character deaths that had you staring at the screen, wondering if what just happened was real. There was betrayal, heartbreak, transformation. These shows weren't afraid to show you that your heroes could fail, and that made them even more powerful when they stood back up.
Let's move in for the kill.
Suddenly, you weren't just watching cartoons, you were following epics. You were analyzing power levels, arguing about strategy with your friends at lunch, and counting down the seconds to get home and see what happened next. You had to be there by 4:30 p.m., or risk missing Vegeta get obliterated in real time. And if you missed it, there was no DVR, no YouTube recap, no TikTok summary. You just missed it. And you'd have to suffer in silence until the rerun came around, if it came around, and pout when your friends talked about it in front of you. Toonami turned your living room into a battleground, into a sanctuary, into a training ground for young minds who wanted more from their animation than pratfalls and punchlines. It challenged you. It leveled you up. It changed what animation could be. This wasn't just an afternoon block. It was an awakening. And for kids who needed something more intense, more meaningful, more unforgettable, Toonami delivered every single day. All right, let's break this down like it's the final boss battle of childhood nostalgia. This isn't just a comparison. This is a full-on showdown between two cartoon giants who ruled our after-school lives. On one side, you had the slick, polished powerhouse of Disney. On the other, the gritty, emotionally charged arena that was Toonami. Two entirely different styles, tones, and legacies, and yet both were absolutely legendary in their own right. Let's start with theme songs. Disney didn't just have good intros, they had bangers. Songs that slapped you so hard you were singing them in class, at recess, in the car, and probably still humming them as an adult. Just hearing DuckTales, woohoo!
DuckTales, woo! Every day they're out there making DuckTales, woo! Tales of daring, do that, and DuckTales.
Could trigger a wave of endorphins. The intros were full of color, movement, energy, and unforgettable lyrics. Disney Afternoon practically made an art form out of the theme song. Meanwhile, Toonami took a completely different approach. Their vibe? Moody, futuristic, intense. Their anime intros were atmospheric, layered, and dramatic. You had to earn those openings. Sometimes you had to sit through 3 episodes of filler just to get to the good part of the arc. And when that intro hit, it felt like a reward. The contrast was sharp. Disney wanted to hook you with fun. Toonami wanted to hypnotize you. Now, animation style. Disney gave us bright, colorful, hand-drawn classics with that Saturday morning polish. Everything was smooth, clean, and aesthetically timeless. Even when things got wild on the screen, the art style always stayed grounded in a sort of comforting familiarity. Characters were expressive. Backgrounds were lush. It felt like a beautifully illustrated children's book come to life. Toonami, on the other hand, was stylized, rough around the edges, gritty when it needed to be, and always, always cool. Anime visuals brought in a whole new aesthetic.
But I won't let you lie about my mother, too! Hey, Yusuke! Go in, Ma!
Speed lines, reaction shots, emotional stills, and stylistic fight choreography that you didn't see in American animation. Some of it was lower budget, sure, but it carried weight. You didn't care if the lip sync was a little off. You were locked in. When it comes to storytelling, the differences couldn't be clearer. Disney Afternoon kept things mostly episodic. Each episode was its own self-contained story. You could miss 3 days of school, come back, and jump right back into the action without missing a beat. The reset button was hit every episode. No long arcs, no major consequences. It was safe, satisfying, and consistent. Meanwhile, Toonami thrived on serialized storytelling. These shows expected you to keep up. They built long, intricate arcs with real stakes. What happened in episode 5 still mattered in episode 55. Conflicts escalated. People, sometimes even main characters, died. You didn't just watch the story, you followed it. You lived in it. Then there's tone. Aside from gargoyles, Disney Afternoon was built on adventure, lighthearted mischief, and wholesome fun.
I knew the pack would not stay hidden. We must summon the others.
No time, it's all going down now.
Sure, things got dramatic now and then, but at the end of the day, it was family-friendly mayhem. Even the scary moments had a comforting edge. You always knew the heroes would win. But Toonami? That was another beast entirely. The tone was intense, brooding, philosophical, even tragic. These shows didn't shy away from war, sacrifice, moral conflict, or literal world-ending disasters. Characters screamed into the void to unlock their powers. Villains had motivations that actually made sense. Heroes doubted themselves. Battles had real consequences. Watching Toonami felt like stepping into a rite of passage. And let's not forget the merch. Disney knew how to monetize. Toys, video games, lunchboxes, Happy Meals. You name it, they slapped a DuckTales or Goof Troop logo on it. Their branding machine was a force of nature. Toonami, though, That was more underground. Fewer toys, way fewer fast food tie-ins. But the fans, they were devoted. If Disney gave you merch, Toonami gave you identity. You didn't need a plastic figurine. You carried that fandom in your soul. And later in life, you might just have it tattooed on your arm.
There you are, Father.
Finally, the cultural impact. Disney Afternoon created the blueprint for high-quality syndicated animation in the 90s. It raised the bar. It showed that weekday cartoons didn't have to be throwaway entertainment. They could be beloved, memorable, marketable. But Toonami revolutionized everything. It introduced anime to an entire generation of Western kids. It didn't just change the TV landscape, it rewired our brains. It paved the way for adult fans, convention culture, AMVs, and that whole subculture that now dominates pop media. So yeah, Disney and Toonami were both legends, but the way they operated? Totally different universes. And depending on which one you grew up with, it might just say a lot about who you are today. Let's be real for a second. This debate isn't just about cartoons. It's about identity. If you were a Disney Afternoon kid, you probably knew every theme song by heart like it was part of your DNA. You didn't just hum them, you performed them, complete with air guitar and backup vocals. You lived for goofy puns, slapstick jokes, and over-the-top villains who somehow always got foiled in the silliest ways possible. Your childhood joy came from talking animals solving crimes, bouncing magical bears defending medieval kingdoms, and duck superheroes who battled evil while making dad jokes.
For the first time today, Dad, the how-to wallpaper book agrees with you.
You thrived on adventure, humor, and stories that wrapped up neatly in 22 minutes with a wink to the camera. But if you were a Toonami kid, your whole vibe was different. You didn't just watch cartoons, you analyzed them. You memorized entire storylines, debated power levels with your friends, and probably tried to summon a spirit bomb in the backyard at least once. Your after-school routine involved watching characters train, suffer, evolve, and face impossible odds, only to come back stronger with a new transformation and even bigger hair. You started having existential crises before you hit middle school because your favorite show was talking about fate, mortality, war, and internal darkness. You were riding emotional roller coasters disguised as action shows, and you liked it that way. And if you were both, oh man, if you were flipping channels from Goof Troop to Gundam Wing, from DuckTales to Dragon Ball Z, you're probably a beautifully chaotic mix of nostalgia and unresolved childhood emotions. You laugh too loud at cartoon quotes, but also cry too easily at anime betrayals. You've got trauma from character deaths and a soft spot for bouncing theme songs.
Gummy bears bouncing here and there and everywhere. High adventure that's beyond compare. They are the gummy bears.
You are the final form of a 90s kid. You are balance. You are power. And you know deep down that both blocks shaped you in completely different but equally unforgettable ways. So, who really won the after-school wars? Honestly, we did. Because for a few magical, irreplaceable years, we lived in a time where we could flip between a duck flying a seaplane into a volcano and a space prince blowing up an entire planet to avenge his fallen race. We didn't have streaming. There was no skip intro button, no algorithm deciding what came next, no buffering wheel spinning while you waited. It was just you, your couch, your cereal bowl, and a world of animation that felt like it was made just for you. Pure, uninterrupted cartoon chaos. And every afternoon, It was on. But now we want to hear from you. Were you Team Toonami or Team Disney Afternoon? Drop your answer in the comments, and we just might feature your reply in the next video. Let the nostalgia battle begin. Thanks for hanging out on this nostalgic trip back to the after-school battleground. If this brought back memories or made you realize how wild our childhoods actually were, drop a comment, hit like, subscribe, and show some love with a super thanks if you want more cartoon deep dives like this one. Oh, and don't forget to grab your Toonami or Disney Afternoon DVD sets down in the description. Support the channel and keep the nostalgia train rolling. Until next time, see you next time.